they treat a lot like timelines and not relationships. I mean, I think people want to have relationships and work with people that they feel like they can obviously interact with on a daily basis and provide the right coaching, mentorship opportunities, and really have those conversations where you feel like they genuinely care. And that's what we focus on. I try to encourage our managers all the time to really think about the employee experience every day. Like, how can you make it consistent, better than it was yesterday?
Welcome to the HR Huddle podcast, presented by Sapient Insights Group, the ultimate resource for all things HR. It's time to get in the huddle.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the HR Huddle. I'm your host, Teri Zipper. I'm the CEO and managing partner at Sapient Insights Group, and I'm back for another exciting episode of HR We Have a Problem. This is the show where we like to break down the big and most relevant HR issues of the day. We help you make sense of what they mean, and we talk about things that you might do about them. Joining me today is David Noe. David is passionate. He's a passionate voice in the world of HR and employee experience, and he brings deep experience from the world of payroll and HR technology. David and I both live in or work in Kentucky. We are fellow podcasters on the Work Defined Network, an awesome group of podcasters. If you don't know about it, you should look into it. And we both focus on HR and HR tech. I am not sure if that's where the similarities are going to end, but we shall find out today. Welcome, David. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Well, considering this is the third time's a charm, like we've tried to do this podcast twice before, and the world of nature and other government entity things got in the way, right? The shutdown with the government and sort of TSA flight issues. And then this week, the world of Mother Nature and internet outages and all sorts of fun things. So,
Yep. It's been a struggle, but here we are, and I am so excited to be on here with you.
yeah, I am super excited. There's just a lot going on in the world, and frankly, I was excited to talk about something besides AI. I feel like all I ever talk about anymore is AI. Not
Yep.
that it won't come up in this podcast, but that's definitely not our focus. So I think, with your sort of practical, people first approach to things, like your big picture mindset, I was hoping we could kind of unpack some things around growth and culture and sort of where they come together to keep employees engaged, because this is quite the challenge, especially in today's era of disruption. And I was also hoping we might talk a few minutes about Disrupt HR, the new chapter that you're working on in
Yeah.
Northern Kentucky, because that's becoming a really exciting show. So does that sound like a good plan to you?
Sounds great.
Then let's get into the huddle. So before we dive into some questions, maybe give a little bit more background on yourself. I mean, I know I gave a little bit of a high level overview, but tell
Yeah.
people a little bit more about you, what you do, and like it's.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I've spent almost 2 decades in HR, payroll operations, leadership across all kinds of different industries, business sizes, high growth environments. So I've taken a lot of that experience over the years and started my own podcast, as you had mentioned. So we work together on the same Work Defined podcast community. Been a lot of fun creating a podcast and having guests on. And so my work now is more grounded around my 3 pillars: faith, family, leadership development, trying to get all of that into every situation I'm in, help guide how I can consult with people and be a mentor, and really communicate effectively to people, whether I'm working with them in my organization at Payroll Partners or other HR community partners in our region. So getting involved in more events, as you had mentioned, with local Disrupt HR chapters, the HR community, chambers of commerce we're very involved in. And then my wife and I own a small business in our area. And so we started a nonprofit with that called the Love Lead Inspire Foundation. So just got a lot going on, and it's keeping me busy.
Yeah, wow, that's exciting. And I noticed that the word lead or leadership came up in sort of every one of those things. And I think this is a place where everybody's kind of sitting right now thinking, am I prepared to lead? Do I have the skills I need to lead? Where can I lead and where do I still need to learn? So yeah, exciting. That's very exciting.
Yeah,
And do
definitely.
you live in across the bridge though in Cincinnati, right? But you work in Kentucky, or do you live in Kentucky?
Nope, I'm in Kentucky.
Oh, you are.
We
Okay.
also, yep. So I live in Kentucky, just south of Cincinnati, and our office is here
Okay.
as well. So we are a Kentucky-based payroll company, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, just down the
I,
road from
I'm
you.
I'm 75 minutes away, probably in Louisville.
Yeah,
But yeah, I knew your office was in Northern Kentucky, but I wasn't sure
yep,
about where you actually lived. Well, cool.
yeah,
Are
definitely.
you a Cats fan or a Cards fan?
So I grew up in Michigan. I am not
Okay.
from this area. I played collegiate golf in Cincinnati, and it was really something that took me away from Michigan and the weather and sports that I grew up with, right? In Michigan, hockey and college football. So I'm really not either of those two. I know people
Okay.
that dislike both, and I went to Xavier, so obviously Cincinnati's a big rival to Xavier University.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in it, and then Bengals obviously are a big team around here. I'm not a big Bengals fan, so when they lose, it doesn't ruin my day. So, but it's fun to see the camaraderie and the different
Yeah.
family upbringing in this area. They either go to Kentucky or Louisville or Cincinnati, so a lot of different families and friends that kind of root for some of those teams that I really
Yeah.
didn't grow up
Sports are
with.
a big deal here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the Cards Cats sort of rivalry has maybe ruined some families.
Yep.
I'm a Cards fan, and most of my family are Cats
Okay.
fans. So
Okay.
yeah, it's a
Well, they
little bit
just
of,
Cats just got a new
yeah,
football coach, so
yeah, yeah.
a lot of
I do root for the Cats. Like if it's, as long as they're not playing the Cards, I'm all about the Cats.
yeah.
So I'm not one of those that is like diehard one or the other and hates the other one. So
Are you more college basketball or football?
college basketball more so than college football, although I
Yeah.
do like college football,
Yeah.
more pro football
Okay.
and not pro basketball. So
Okay.
it's kind of a weird mix,
So
right?
then are you a
And I'm a Bengals fan.
you're a Bengals fan? Okay, I was gonna say.
Sadly,
Got it.
that was a big deal a few years ago, and now it's like
So
we're
you
back to where we used
so
to be.
so you'll probably like to see this. This is a
Oh,
Bengals
yeah.
themed bourbon that I got recently. It's a
Oh, love it.
Bengal Jim and Friends, if you know Bengal Jim.
Yeah,
So yeah,
love
big
it.
big local personality that he did a
Yeah. Oh,
fun
that
fun
is so
project with
cool.
a local distillery.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I did have at one point I had my office upstairs and my husband had this Bengals banner behind me and I was like, dude, that can't hang there. Like I love it, but I don't want it on my wall every day when I'm
Right?
talking on Zoom.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah.
funny.
Well, and some of this may lead to the employee experience conversation, right? We need to be able to talk about our sports at work. So one of the questions I had for you is just in your experience, and I know this is an area that you're passionate about. Are there some things that you think are overlooked in the employee experience area, especially as they affect retention and your
Yeah.
ability to get people to stick around?
Yeah, and we are in an era where we have five generations working together. All those generations don't have the same values, motivation. And so the two things that really stand out to me in all of them is the clarity and belonging to the experience of an employee. So most organizations, they're focused on the benefits, the perks, the work environment. Like, do you work from home? Do you work flex schedules? Do you give them the flexibility to really make up their own schedule? Right now, people are trying to still figure that out, and companies are having people come back into the office. So, you miss that human side, especially when you're working remote. And if you were in office before COVID and now you're kind of trying to get things back to where they were, you know, the employees want to feel seen, they want to feel heard, and they want to feel like they're making an impact. So when you have chaos and poor communication and leaders that don't really check in with people until something's going wrong. It's like you really want to stand out and recognize people in those small moments, the tiny wins, things that will really spark their day and spark their attitude when to them it's like a simple thank you could go a very long way. So driving retention and really the ones that are most overlooked, I think, are some of those. But like just the genuine feedback, the genuine interest, having that empathy to somebody, whether you know what's going on in their world or not. I mean, people bring their life to work. You can't just assume that someone's going to check into work, turn off their life, and not focus on things other than work. And I mean, people are humans, people make mistakes. So I think a lot of that is still overlooked, even though technology is helping. It's helping people be more efficient and in their jobs. But again, the retention, just just because you feel like your culture is great, do you really feel like everybody is going to stay around and not be looking for a job next year? Because let's face it, 70% of people are always looking for jobs.
Yeah, so true. You mentioned technology there, and I know you guys work a lot with like UKG, I believe.
Yeah.
Do you feel like systems like that are contributing or not contributing or play any role in the organization's culture?
Yeah, definitely. And going back years before now, I was a prospect of Payroll Partners. I did not really want to work for a payroll company. I was in a roofing construction business. We were going to Louisville. We acquired a business in Louisville, so I was making trips down to Louisville and we just kept growing and I'm like, our systems aren't working. Every Friday, I hated Fridays. A lot of people love Fridays. My Fridays were I don't want to go to work because someone's going to have a problem with their paycheck. And it all went down the system and technology, and we needed better technology. So now I see it with my world and my job and what I focus on. So platforms can really make or break the whole experience for somebody. Because you look at if I'm applying for a job with your company, Terry, and it is, the onboarding process, the recruiting process, if that's smooth, that first impression of a company is going to be that they value the new people that come in. They want to make an experience where people use the technology to their advantage and not make it overcomplicated. Even a simple thing of like tracking vacation. You can
Yeah.
do that in a really an effective way. And if you use multiple systems, just because you have a shiny system, you still need people to manage it. And I think that's where people that don't know the technology in and out and can really fix things, they need a good partner. They need somebody that can fix it for them because you don't want to mess with someone's paycheck. Like I would have to sit and wait for people come in after work and meet them at a parking lot at a McDonald's or something because we had to give them a live paycheck because payroll was messed up. And they relied on their paycheck every Friday, right? So the trust in an organization can definitely be because of the experience of working alongside a team, your manager. But again, part of that factor is paying them consistently, paying them on time, paying them accurately. And if people don't get paid right, their trust level for that business can definitely go down. So that's where I know the experience of an employee and how the systems are utilized can really make or break a lot of the experiences without people even really understanding that at the business. They just look at payroll as like, that's how we pay people. Well, it's more than that. And that's where we see that, every day and how we can make a difference.
Yeah, yeah. I spent my early days in payroll, and payroll only gets accolades. Well, they never get accolades. They get people hate payroll when their paycheck is wrong, but they don't love payroll when their paycheck is right. So there's a little bit of a dichotomy there, but you're right.
Yep.
I mean, trust is huge. And, a lot of organizations are trying to scale their businesses, grow their businesses, while at the same time maintaining their culture, right? And that's hard to do. Those things can sometimes be at odds. I had a conversation the other night with a friend and we were kind of, I don't know if I would say we were arguing, but we were disagreeing over who owns the culture because basically we were saying it doesn't sit with HR. owns communication at some level,
Right.
but they don't own the culture.
Right.
And I was arguing that the C-suite, I mean, basically your C-suite owns, they are the culture, right? And the person I was talking to was arguing that the employees own the culture. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because yeah, and there's some ways to look at that combine the two, but the
Yeah.
reality is if your CEO isn't walking the walk and out there in front of people, building the trust and creating that sort of feeling in the employees, then your
Right.
culture is sort of all over the board.
Yep. Yeah, culture really isn't maintained by accident. It's maintained by discipline, and leaders need to understand that. And to
Yeah.
really scale well as an organization, those leaders really need to have clear, non-negotiable values, the simple systems that reinforce the values within the organization, and leadership development at every level. I mean, whether you're a manager, a leader, a non-managerial role that you might be transitioning into that role, I've seen that firsthand. And when you start managing people that you used to be a peer with, it makes that dynamic different for that individual in that organization. It needs to be taught, it needs to be repeated, it needs to be understood and really have that consistency. And if you can do that as a growing organization or a business that is maintaining itself without having to go through acquisition and layoffs and mergers like that can play a factor too, especially when you have two different leadership styles within organizations that are now merging. And we've seen
Yeah.
that in our industry.
Oh, yeah.
Companies continue to acquire each other and merge. So just because you love the culture today in ABC company, when that company becomes XYZ company, you gotta either decide to stay with that culture if you like it or not. And then, you just, you don't, you I mean, you can't assume that a culture is going to stay the same moving forward as you are with an organization. And that's why I think a lot of people decide to leave jobs. They like the company, they like the pay, they like the comp, right? The schedule, the perks and all that, but they can't handle their manager if they can't deal with the people they're working with, the culture, it really is a big factor in people leaving companies.
Yeah. There's so many factors because I think about the people that, you're always going to have people who are there because they want a job. They want a
Yep.
paycheck, right?
Yep.
Beyond that, they don't really care. They don't necessarily engage in the culture directly, right? And then you've got other
Right.
people who are just sort of married to like everything they do has to make
Yep.
them successful as well as the business successful. And then you got everybody in between, right?
Yep.
And, so employee engagement is challenging. So there's a lot of different factors at play. And then you've got again, your culture. So those values and the things that are being conveyed by the executives and leaders within the organization
Yep.
that impact all of that. So it's big, right? It's a big
Yes.
challenge.
Yeah, and when I do interviews with people, if I look at their resume and I see the companies they worked with, and if those companies had 5,000, 10,000 employees, and then they're interviewing for a job with us, and we have way less than that. We have under 50 right now. So going from a culture, and I've seen it firsthand. I went from healthcare to a small organization to an even smaller organization. And when I was in the healthcare industry, it was 8,000 employees, and I was in a big HR department. I was managing and helping, with recruiting and engagement with the primary care offices. And you're talking about culture differences. You go from one primary care office to another one that's 20 minutes away, and the culture, it might be a little different, right? Like, so as you look at a business and you're like, oh, they have five locations across 3 states. What's the culture like in every office too?
Yeah.
So there's that situation where you don't have just one office and you're trying to maintain a consistent culture amongst everybody in that organization. So,
Yeah. I guess there's the overarching business culture, right? That
right.
we value trust and transparency and, recognition and all of the things that make people want to come to work. And
Yep.
then there's the local culture, right?
Yep.
What we do on the weekend, do we see each other as family? Do we go out and hang out on the weekends? Like what are the other things that happen in that local market
Yep.
that hopefully transcend from the larger cultural aspects, but you could
Yep.
see where there would be some challenges there.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, interesting. What do you like when you think about all the plethora of data that we have access to today? How is HR using that data to sort of help them connect the dots in this area? And what is HR's role from your perspective? What do you see HR's role in the
Right.
culture as?
Right. It's getting better. We're not there yet. I feel like everyone just thinks that now that there's AI and machine learning, that it's just going to really reinvent the way that people have to work. And to some extent, it might, but I mean, it's still going to take some time to get there. So I think there are a lot of HR people analytics sitting just really untouched. Surveys, people, what do they do with survey results? If there's no follow up, if you do a culture survey and you're trying to figure out, like, how is our retention compared to last year? What do people think about our culture? What do people like about working here? What kind of feedback are they going to give us? You've got to act on that. And I think doing those kind of exercises, it's good. You can't always assume that people are happy, even though they look happy and they show up to work every day. Leaders really are, I think, afraid of what the data will reveal sometimes, right? Like they don't even want to know. So it's like, why are we even going to do a survey?
Yeah.
So really, I think having the right focus and right approach to using data, and same with the hiring practices that you have within your organization, and how you find good applicants to fill jobs, how you bring them in as a new hire and onboard them, and then using those different platforms when it comes to personalities and the assessment of a person, and what their motivating factors are in their life. Because let's face it, I mean, people that are coming into the workforce in their 20s, how are you going to manage them and use data to manage them better than you did 5 years ago with that same kind of situation? And then you have people that are working longer, so you expect a lot out of people that are potentially not quick to, like, learn technology and might not know AI, and they might not know how to learn a new system, because people don't like change too. Like, if you've ever gone through a new change of a system or a process or procedure, we've gone through them in my situation. The last few years, we've gone through and used new technology and data to really help analyze our clients better, help figure out what we can do to fix ongoing issues. And just so, again, it has to be measurable. It's helping to predict and improve. It's not going to fix everything. Culture really is not something that you can take a lot of data and just fix culture either. It's really got to be utilized the right way, and you've got to have the right buy-in from everybody too when you're using data. So I think just trying to simplify how you use data as much as possible and not really overcomplicate it. I think people just try to overcomplicate how to use data in their organizations, and for some, it's needed. Like, they're changing, they're growing, they're exponentially needed to evolve as a business. But again, using data as best as you can, is going to be difficult, and it's hard to say, like, is it going to fix everything? No. Can you use data for the good? Yes. But again, it's still a lot of unknowns in how people are using data still. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, the culture has to be nurtured, right?
yes.
It's not a set it and forget it. You don't say, well, here's our culture, right? You don't write it down on a piece of paper and define it and then tell everybody. It's you act it out, right?
Yep.
And the reality, I think data is good, but the reality is if you're not somebody who can sort of see what's going on with your own eyes, like you can't pick out the problems by
Yep.
looking, data's not really going to help you.
Absolutely.
Um, you got to know when things are not right. And I mean, that's what data tells us half the time anyway, right? It tells us what we already know. It confirms what we already think we know most of the time. Sometimes there's new information, but a lot of times it's a confirmation. It's like, yeah, we know that. Let's act on it. We've got actionable data. The data is making this actionable now. Let's do something with it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it's a chat. There's a lot going on in HR, and I'm curious. The disrupt HR thing is just super cool. I know my friend Julie Devlin speaks at a lot of them. You probably know Julie. She's at UKG. At one in Northern Kentucky, that's only 75 minutes away from me, so I might be able to
Yeah.
get to it. Tell me
Yeah.
more about what's going on with that and what you guys are hoping to achieve with that.
Yeah. So Disrupt HR, for people that haven't heard of it, it is a different approach to offering an event where you are learning from multiple presenters, 14 to be exact, where every presenter has 5 minutes and they have 5 minutes, short and sweet. You have slides changing every 15 seconds, and it's a very dynamic, bold kind of event where you are not just going to listen to one presenter. And so it was founded in Cincinnati over close to 12 years ago this month. And so Jennifer McClure and some other people that have been involved, James Byro, Steve Brown at La Rose has been involved in it. Some high influential people in HR that have gone to the national events and things. So now in most cities in the country and globally, that's over 10 countries have some kind of Disrupt HR chapter. And so these events bring people together and learn and inspire everybody. So when I went to Jennifer and asked her about having a chapter in Northern Kentucky, she said, "Absolutely, let's figure out a way to do it." And so since then, which was last spring that we first connected about the idea, she's like, "We're going to try to have one in Cincinnati in 2026." And so over the last few days, we've connected. We've started getting sponsors. Payroll Partners is going to be involved as a sponsor. So in February of next year, February 19th, we're going to have an event in Cincinnati, which will, I think, draw a big crowd. We haven't had one. So I'm on the planning team for both Disrupt HR for Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, which will be next July on the 8th. So again, it's giving people two different opportunities in this region to attend one. I know people that are on the organizing teams in Michigan and other parts of the country, and so they all just have so much fun with it. And it's just a really unique event that I think a lot of people enjoy going to that really do try to attend events throughout the year. So very excited about it.
Is it primarily HR people that come to this, or do you find it's kind of more broad than that? Like, are there opportunities for leaders in other parts of the business to come and learn something?
Abs- yeah, absolutely. The presenters of the 14, generally there's probably 60%, 70% HR, and then the rest are non-HR that present. So if you
Okay.
have an idea about a topic and you submit it, I'll be involved in both processes to pick the speakers. And so we want to make it dynamic. We don't want to have 14
Yeah.
people talk about this topic. So we do like to see that dynamic, different approach to a topic, because I've got a few in mind, and thinking how to go through it in 5 minutes and get the point across. You can't have a lot of, I mean, you can have, obviously you have slides and every 15 seconds they change, right? So like it's one thing to go and talk in front of a crowd for 45 minutes. It's another thing to fit it in 5 minutes, and they record every 5 minute presentation. So those go on the website as well. So non-HR people are definitely encouraged to attend for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. From where you sit, what do you think the biggest uh, HR problem is right now? Like, what are leaders missing when they think about employee experience and the employee life cycle?
Yeah, it's a fascinating question. I think it's they treat a lot like timelines and not relationships. I mean, I think people want to have relationships and work with people that they feel like they can obviously interact with on a daily basis. And provide the right coaching, mentorship opportunities, and really have those conversations where you feel like they genuinely care. And that's what we focus on. I try to encourage our managers all the time to really think about the employee experience every day. Like, how can you make it consistent, better than it was yesterday, and make it where no matter who's on your team, obviously people that manage, they want to just manage a bunch of rock stars. But let's face it, you normally don't have a group of rock stars. You have people that need a little bit of encouragement. They need a little bit of a push. And really it comes down to having people manage that can really make an impact. And that's hard. Like, a lot of people may not have the skill set to be a manager. Do they get put in managerial roles? Yes. You know, like people want to get paid as a manager, but do they want to do all the other work and really have those difficult conversations that they just think HR has to have, have. It's like, have HR have that conversation. Well, we can help guide you and coach you on how to have a conversation, but those difficult conversations are the only way that people are going to learn and be in a discomfort to some degree. So the experience, I think, no matter what technology is out there, in 5 years, 10 years, you're still going to need a human connection. You're going to have people that really need to show empathy and authentic, personalities to have a relationship, connect with their people, whether it's in person or virtual. I think you can do it no matter how that looks, but just really show at the end of the day you care and that you're not going to be in a meeting in front of your phone and not paying attention too. I see that, and people talk about it. Like, if you're in a meeting, give everybody your undivided attention. Like, have that eye contact. Really show the person next to you you are there to listen to them. Have your phone away. Just the simple etiquette of being in a meeting. So, it's hard to say like there's one thing that's going to help fix that. But, again, leaders have a say in that. Managers have a say in that. And, the future leaders, they need to see what it's going to be like to be a leader in the future if they want to be one. So,
yeah. And Zoom has really screwed us all up on that, right? Because it's so easy to multitask or turn off your camera and not give people your undivided attention.
right, exactly.
And a lot of times that's the only way you can meet with them. Even if
Yep.
you're back in the office, you might be in two different locations. So,
Yep.
yeah, I
Definitely.
think, at the end of the day, as a leader, and I feel this myself, right? Like, I'm focused on the goal. Like, how do we make the client happy? How do we get
Yep.
deliverables to the client? How do we deliver, our products and services? But, we can't lose sight of the fact that we have real people doing that work. And there's things going on in their world, and they may be the best person on your team. There's
Yep.
going to be days when they don't have their best day,
Yep.
right? It's up to us as leaders to be able to recognize what's happening in the situation and not
Right.
treat it as, well, I just need you to get X done, right? We don't have to be counselors. We don't have to be, there, to have them come in for a session so that we can
Right.
tell them how their day should be going, right? But we do have to be conscious of what's happening and know what's going on around us. That's,
Yep.
to me, one of the biggest issues I see is people, some people just don't have the ability to see what's going on around them.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are there some common themes or questions that keep coming up on your podcast with guests and leaders? Yours is called the SpeakEasy HR, right?
Yep.
What are some of the big themes that are coming up there? And maybe where'd you come up with your name? I like it.
Yeah. So I'll start there. So, back when I first thought of an idea of having a podcast, and obviously where I live in the world of Bourbon, Kentucky, taking that kind of speakeasy vibe of what it was like back during Prohibition, and how people still tried to have these like secret, places to go. So it started there, and then, speak easy. We're going to speak on the easy topics and fun topics, but then the not so easy. So it just kind of blended together and went from there. And then, some of the themes, it's obviously, leadership development, culture, what people want, the
Yeah.
purpose, the clarity. Um, so the topics that I've had on over the last 50 episodes have been, all kinds of different themes and topics around, you know, some AI. Obviously, AI has been in there, but just people that have been involved in the whole cycle of an employee, the recruiting, the retention, the culture, the leadership. And so I learn every time I have somebody on. I take that opportunity with somebody that is on the show to learn myself, but also help people listening learn. And it's live, so people can engage with us. So that's been a lot of fun because obviously, if people can watch and they know the guest is going to be in the future, I try to promote that a few weeks out on LinkedIn
Yeah.
so people can see. Some of them have been authors. They've really dug into a topic and have written a book about it. And I'm like, this is great information. Again, I learned so much when I talk to the people. And so again, I really try to ask questions that I feel like is going to pull that information out. And the guest has a say. Like I allow the guest to really help me come up with the topic and how we'll approach the episode. So, if you were to come on, which I think we're talking about doing that, it's like, what topic do you want to bring that you're passionate about, that you feel like you have insights and stories and the message to inspire people and learn from the guest? Because if I have two people talk about leadership or culture or mentorship, like, they're not going to be the same kind of conversation. And it's just going to be a different angle and a different way of getting the point across. And so I think people that listen in definitely see that as a way to learn from different people and different dynamics, no matter what the topic is. So it isn't on just one piece of HR or leadership. Again, like one of the upcoming episodes, it's the power of visual thinking. And the guy wrote a book about it, and I'm kind of like, I've been reading his book and I'm just so fascinated to see, like, it's all about even having conversations and being able to visually explain something to somebody and have that kind of approach, and even just a conversation with somebody. So it's beyond just people in HR and leadership. It's anybody can learn from
Yeah.
somebody like that. So we'll see where that takes it. And I think there's still some common themes, and I've wrote a few blogs about that, which you can find on the website. And so again, I'm crafting more into the podcast that really has helped come out of it with some themes like you had mentioned. But again, leadership is still just such a big topic because it really influences the burnout, the engagement of an employee, the way the young professionals that are coming into the workforce need to be managed. And again, we have 5 generations working together. I mean, I don't know how long I'll be working, but like, I'm going to be working for a while, and I'm sure at some point I'll have a manager maybe younger than me, or maybe I'll have to be managing people that are in a different generation, older
Yeah.
or younger. So it's like, just because you managed at one company and then you go to another company, it's just going to be so different. So I hope people listening to the podcast can learn where they're at in their life, in their career, and apply that as best as they can. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even if you're post-career, I mean, a lot of people have gone back to work.
oh yeah,
And a
yep,
lot of people, I think, retired during COVID and now are like, I really want to go back to work. Like, I wasn't quite ready to do that. Right. And so they're
yep,
coming back into a workforce that looks very different.
yep.
Um, and
And
they're
I've seen
trying to
that.
figure it out.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that. We do work with a lot of smaller businesses, and so it's like, you know, not every business needs a full-time HR position. So it's that fine line of like, when do I need HR? When don't I need HR? Right? Like some companies are like, they don't want to invest in HR. They
Right.
don't see value in HR. And so I've tried to, through my career, find companies that really value HR, no matter the industry. And I've made it very a big part of my whole move in each position I've had. How do they value HR? Because again, just as well as I do, HR is not as respected in every organization. People don't see it as a way to make money.
Right, right. If you're viewed as compliance, nobody wants to talk to you, right? I mean,
Policy, please.
if you're being if HR is included in something, they think it's because something's gone wrong or you've done something wrong,
And I
rather
don't
than
like that at all.
yeah,
I have tried every position I've had to make it known that if you see me, it doesn't mean you're in trouble. I've made it known. When you see me, it doesn't mean you're in trouble. You might have just won an award. You might have just, done
yeah,
something where we're going to recognize you. Or I just want to ask how your day's going and see how your family is. So I try to make it very known in every role that I'm there to support the team. I am there to support everybody in the organization. Will they like every decision we make? No. But then it comes down to how you communicate those changes and how you make it clear so people don't feel like they're being left in the dark. And that's a part that HR can play too. How you communicate things to a team.
it all comes back to the culture.
Yep.
Yeah. If you could fix one thing in the modern workplace today, what would it be and why?
Yeah.
Something that you know is broken that you've watched for a long time, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes down to fixing communication. I think that is so important. Not the volume, the quality.
Yeah.
So people are constantly getting distracted with everything going on in the world. And so you don't want to overcomplicate communication, whether it's performance, whether it's conflict, whether it's, confusion, burnout, things that people really need to have a clear communication strategy and how they approach that in the organization as a company grows, how they're going to communicate, how they make decisions. And it really makes a big difference when the leadership can communicate clearly and consistently with compassion, and really help, I think, eliminate a lot of frustration and people, like I said, left in the dark, and really just have maybe a sense of like, well, why did they make that decision? Like the more you can explain the why, I've heard that all the time. In other positions, it's like I just want to know why. Like
Yeah.
no one ever tells me why. So communication is that bridge that really holds everything together, in my opinion. Every department has to communicate. Different departments have to communicate together in an organization. And that's where HR plays such a huge role. HR touches every department.
Yeah.
They are in there. They're the glue between the departments, managers, non-managers. So again, it goes back to that and fixing communication, um, and not just thinking AI is going to fix the communication either.
Yeah. Yeah. Although I think AI is a good place to start because I think it can help
It
people.
is.
They know what they want to say, they don't know how best to convey it. And there's also the
Yep.
different messaging, right? Like it's not just, hey, I
Yep.
sent an email and I told everybody. It's that consistent ongoing communication and communicating in different ways to different using different mediums, right? Like some people look at email every day, and some people would rather get a Teams message or a text message or
Yep.
sit in a meeting and hear about it. And it might mean all of those things, but I agree with you. It's a challenge.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Well, David, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate it. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah.
And I hope people will check it out. I hope they'll check you out on the Work Define Network. There's a whole bunch of other fun podcasters out there. So thank you. I also want to remind people to be sure to listen to Stacy and Cliff next week on Spilling the Tea on HR Tech. Also, the annual HR systems report is out there, as well as a lot of the segment reports. So go to the sapientinsights.com website and check it out. David, where can they find you online?
So you can go to speakeasyhr.com is where all the content is. You can look me up on LinkedIn, and would love to connect with other like-minded HR professionals and tune into all the past episodes of Speakeasy HR. And then I've got a big list of guests coming up for the next year. So it's a really exciting time, and looking forward to having those different conversations, and hopefully you'll be included in that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope to be on the rotation. Well, thank you. I also want to thank our producers, the Brand Method Media Group. I want to thank our marketing team who gets all of this out there to you. And thank you for tuning in. That's all the time we have for this week's episode of HR We Have a Problem. If you enjoyed the episode, we'd love for you to subscribe to it on your favorite podcast app. Also, leave us a review or drop us an email. We'd love to hear more about the topics that you want us to focus on this show. We will be back in 2 weeks with another episode of HR We Have a Problem. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.